welcome to our Alexa Tech Talk. If you are joining us through the On24 console, make sure that you check out the engagement widgets that we've got on the screen. There's also an attendee chat. Please ask any and all questions through there. We've got people on the backside ready to respond there. And then make sure that you respond to the survey that's going to pop up. We take those very seriously, and all of your inputs are super helpful for us. There's also an option to send some emoticons at the bottom of the screen. And then if you're not yet, please feel free to join our Slack community. It's alexa.design/Slack. The link is at the bottom of the screen as well. And finally, for everyone joining us live through our social channels, we're also monitoring those chats, so please do feel free to ask any and all questions that you have there as well. Today, we are joined with the wonderful Allison Atwell. She's going to be talking to us today about the Alexa Design Guide, although she dabbles across many a product here at Alexa. But we're really excited about some of the things that her team has been working on with the Design Guide, and I think that some of these changes are going to be really exciting for you too. Hi, Allison.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the Design Guide and all things Alexa design, really.
So before we get into the Design Guide, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your personal experience with conversational design, maybe some of your personal background, because it is so rich and interesting, truly, and what brought you to Skills?
So I'm a senior conversation designer. I will explain what that means momentarily. But I have essentially, for the last 5 years, been helping third parties make really great skills for Alexa. Some Fortune 5 companies you've heard of, some developers you've never heard of, skills you've heard of and love, skills you've never heard of. And I've worked on or helped others launch about 600 skills in my time at Amazon. So I'm in the process of knowledge dumping a bit into the Design Guide, and then bringing some other folks on that I've made connections with over the years, other conversation designers who haven't been involved before. But I first found Alexa when I was working at a design agency right out of college. And I remember some of the early, like the Domino's skill, like the first Domino's skill, we used it in our office. I remember that, and that was my first exposure to conversation design. My first conversation design project actually involved a chatbot agent that went in a luxury airline lounge, and I had to learn all about how flight attendants and staff were meant to speak with customers, because they had a very, their training manual was like this thick. So the agent had to embody what it would be like to speak with a member of staff as, a VIP customer who spends a lot of money and has very high expectations. So that was my first dipping my toe into conversation design. And then later I went to work in aviation design, where I've had a lot of clients who were using augmented reality and voice controls to navigate through virtual environments that have to do with aircraft, anything from sales to the mechanics working on them and training them. So I dabbled in, I was kind of a UX generalist, but conversation design kept coming up at different points in my career, and it always really interested me. And so then when an old friend who I once played with Alexa with, ordering Domino's in our office together years before that, he went to work for Alexa eventually, and he gave me a call and said, hey, do you want to be a conversation designer? So that's how I came to Alexa. Before I was a designer, I was actually a journalist. So I have a writing background, and then I have a design background. So to me, this is the perfect marriage of all of those skills. So.
Truly, especially jumping into voice design with such a complex topic as aviation and the kind of variety of conversations that would have to happen in that setting. How do you dilute that amount of complexity into something that can be done through voice?
Well, I like to work backward from what the end user would experience or find useful or want to experience or find fun, whatever the ultimate goal is for the end customer or the end user. Back when voice became, a thing, when Alexa came out in those early years of my career, the same with virtual and augmented reality, similar conversations happened where everyone sat around and we were like, but why? Why would we do this? And we started exploring these end use cases that were actually really compelling. So not having to talk to a human when you're exhausted and traveling and you just want like a beverage and to book a massage, why not just talk to the virtual assistant instead of having to flag somebody down? So there are infinite possibilities and there is temptation to do all the things. Especially in a well-funded industry like aviation, it's very easy to get lost in projects, but what it came down to is studying where voice might be useful and where it could take some cognitive load off of crew or mechanics, so they can do their job a lot more accurately and therefore more safely. So in the end, the end customer, the ultimate goal in aviation is for them to be safe and for the airlines and the operators to be trusted. So if we work backward from that, and so some of the experience outcomes were a mechanic can learn more efficiently and have a very quick reference, so they don't do any kind of guesswork because they have right in their field of vision some answers to some questions they might have. So we focused on, and continuing at Amazon, focusing on what a customer outcome is. And we actually have a section in the design guide. In our design principles, the first one is why use Alexa, why use your voice. And when you start out without an idea maybe, but you're really interested in voice, you really want to start thinking about why would someone engage with their voice? How is this better? What am I doing for the end customer?
Absolutely, yeah. Those are some of the big questions that every developer has to go through in their skill building journey, for sure.
Hopefully earlier rather than later, after you've already made something that maybe nobody asked for.
Right. Make a few things, throw them away, and then make something that pulls it all together. The ideation phase aside, what do you feel is the hardest part of conversation design as it relates to skills?
It is so hard to know what expectations people are going to have of your product and what they're going to say and what they're going to expect to be able to say and anticipate that and have answers ready or have their questions route to at least a reasonably intelligent and helpful answer. One really, really difficult one that's just like this, it was this problem, but it's larger than one we've had to solve before, is food ordering. And we announced this not too long ago. We're doing pilot programs with Panera, food ordering with Panera. And just ingesting, like Panera's menu is not that complicated as far as like menus go. There are more complicated ones, there are less complicated ones. And it's soup and sandwiches and stuff. How complicated could it be? Well, there's like millions of combinations of phrases and partial phrases that people could use to order a meal for themselves. It was a really difficult problem in anticipating what people would ask about. And we are still, the reason we're just doing we've done pilots and increments is because we've gotten an overwhelming amount of data of what people are saying that we never anticipated. And we did surveys up front before we even launched to find out what kinds of things people would say. And even that, doesn't catch everything, even if you get a big sample size. So that's always really hard to look at the kind of product and the way you're going to present your skill and say, okay, well, what are people going to expect to do? And how can I design for that? Even if it's not something, maybe they're going to ask something that you're not going to support. Maybe you should have an answer for that if 10,000 people are going to ask the question rather than just like surfacing an error, So that's probably the most difficult. And I say it's difficult also because we haven't yet solved the problem of getting all of the data we need before we launch.
So, how would you say good design, as arbitrary as that may be, because a user will always say something you don't expect, how can a good design set a skill apart?
Part of good design is also anticipating and handling errors, which is a whole section in the design guide. It's its own section, and it's also mentioned in multiple places because it's really important. Anyone who has experienced a poor experience versus a good experience, like it's one of those you know when you see it kind of things, and it's so like it's your reaction to a weird conversation because we're such good conversationalists. We are the conversation experts as humans. If something is off, it's almost uncanny valley, like you have this visceral response to it. So I think if you have a good skill, you're going to notice right away that people keep coming back and they will say different things, and they will you will see in your data that they are testing you a little bit. They're trying to see how you're going to respond. And if they keep doing that, that's really good. And if they come back multiple days in a row, that's a good sign. And we're going to talk about retention later and how we make that happen. Really, it's something that people like coming back to over time, I think is the real differentiator. I don't remember, so I don't want to say the latest numbers of how many skills are out there. I think my number is outdated, but there are so many. That there are just so many great ones. And then when you get one that's off, it's just, you never use it again. It's a lot like App Store in a way as well. Any App Store, we all know the statistic around we only open and use a few apps on our phone regularly, and most get deleted after one use. It's a similar concept where most people only have in their rotation a few experiences and skills that they like to use with Alexa regularly. So this skill, another feature of skills that do really well in our very high retention skills is they tap into some kind of like daily habit. So maybe it's, our meditation skills are extremely popular because people do that daily. Our sleep sound skills obviously are popular because people do sleep every day. Those are some no-brainers. But some other ones involve, paying a bill. You have to do that regularly. Ordering coffee, you do that regularly. So they're able to tap into a daily habit either directly or indirectly, like playing a daily game or something every day and building a habit of doing that.
All right, awesome. Well, why don't we shift a little bit and talk more about the design guide specifically? I know a lot of our developers are familiar with the design guide, but before we get to some of the updates your team has been making, can you just introduce the design guide, let us know kind of the things that developers can expect, and then talk through some of those updates. And then we will do a demo a little bit later, but just to get us into that.
Yeah, so I switched teams internally in Alexa to the Ask Tech UX team that owns the design guide 2 years ago, or 15, 18 months ago. And I have been, in addition to working on some of our flagship skills, I've also been looking into reworking information that's in the design guide, not only to update it, because a lot has changed in the 3 years now, I think, since the old one was published. And then I wanted to get we had a lot of feedback, and I wanted more feedback from the folks who were actually using it. And so I looked into where the traffic was coming from, and I wanted to understand who was using it. And some of the feedback I got drove a few changes. One is using really, really plain language, keeping it very simple, and not being too prescriptive. As a designer, it is in my nature to tell people what I think they should do. But what the design guide is doing is giving you the information of, typically people like it when you do this, they don't like it when you do that. We see errors when you do this and not when you do that. I want to arm people with the information, the best information we have from all of the experts that we know internally, and from the skills that we've launched that have been successful with some of our third parties. argue with the information and for you to decide as a developer what's right for you and for your skill. Because whenever anybody asks me for advice, like I sound like a broken record because I'm always saying, well, it depends on the skill, the situation, the customer, the context, etc. This can help you, hopefully, the design guide navigate all of the it depends scenarios. Another major thing that you're going to see that's my favorite part of the updates is actual conversations, audio of those conversations, and transcripts of those conversations, bad and good, so you can hear side by side the difference. And then you can also, I beg of you, steal those designs, steal some of that stuff, and put it in your own skill. That's what I made it for, because those are things that the good examples are things that we have done that worked. They're conversation patterns that customers use. They're patterns that other parts of Alexa use, other skills use. So steal any of that, but also listen to it, listen to the examples, and you'll hear very distinctly. You don't need to necessarily read the whole article to understand the concept, because you can just go through the examples and listen to them and really understand the difference. So those are my favorite things about the design guide so far, the updates that we've done. And then, of course, we're focusing on content that really matters to people. Hitting retention and monetization, and then a few other hot topics too.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying that your team updated the design guide, but the sheer bulk of work that has gone into this, I mean, I think by, what was it, March, your team had done 60 new videos for the design guide. Like, it's hugely improved.
We're up to almost 200 conversation samples and videos. We've either rewritten or created new about 25 articles now. We're kind of rewriting what we're going to do for the rest of the year, given the generative AI gifts that have been bestowed upon us. I'm going to call them that for now. We will still have lots of content, though, throughout the year. And the idea also is that we're doing 4 updates a year. We're doing quarterly updates. So if something happens in the industry or there's something new that comes out, we can include that the very next quarter. At least we're on a quarterly schedule. So we're working on our second update of the year already.
That is so exciting. Subscribe to our newsletter if you're not yet, if you want to know when those updates come live, because I guarantee they will be in that. So I think this would be a great time to showcase all your hard work and get that demo rolling if you are ready to start talking through some of those.
Yeah. So this is the landing page. I won't dwell too much on this, but if you have not visited the design guide either ever before or since for a long time, you might want to start here, because we have a few things that you might be able to identify with and find useful right away without having to do any navigation. So if any of these personas or needs apply to you on this landing page, you can just go right there. The navigation was a really hot topic when we sought some input from our customers. So we do still have some fundamentals, and we've built out fundamentals. The principles are really important. And again, we're going to start with the fundamental. Should I even use Alexa if you're just getting started? What makes a good conversation design? What makes a good skill? What makes a good voice experience? And then if you're really new to this, I would suggest reading the principles. But if you're just getting started or you're looking to improve your skill, I would suggest going through some of these things. We also have some patterns that we're building out, some more of those like steal this script kind of things, navigating lists, all kinds of sample conversations for ways to handle customers navigating a list, maybe of search results or something like that. Getting feedback from customers, et cetera, et cetera. It gets really fun in multimodal design. We added a really big section in widgets if you're looking to incorporate widgets into your skill, if you're looking to get in on that program. But we have quite a lot of multimodal design tools and templates there. Then we can get into really taking your skill to the next level, which is, I call it refining and expanding your skill. I broke these into 2 sections recently because there is now so much content and there will be a lot more content this year. So a big one, I'm going to go ahead and click on this one and we can talk about this really quickly, is retention. If you are about to launch a skill or you have already launched a skill, this is really valuable advice for how to keep customers coming back and updates you can make to really ensure people don't bounce out of your skill for friction reasons or they just like run out of content and excitement. There's a lot of discussion here on how to keep customers coming back to your skill. Another exciting thing I want to point out is if you are in a hurry and you see this long scrolling page and you're like, I don't have time to take a college course on skill design. Thank you. Respect that. I respect your time. And so there are checklists. So if you just want to skip to the checklist, like click on the checklist, skip to the checklist and like copy it over onto a notepad or something and just forget the rest of the thing exists, maybe until later. You can do that too. And there might be some more links for further reading in the checklist, but every single article has a checklist. So you can do something really quickly and get good advice quickly. Maybe you're not new to this, but you just want a little like pre-flight checklist. Sorry, I'm from the aviation world. So we love a good checklist. I have provided all of the checklists. So we can thank the FAA checklist system for this goodness here. We also have information about other tools that you might find elsewhere that will be helpful to you that are design related. So for example, we just did an article on the Skill Quality Coach. We're not going to tell you all the technical stuff about it, but we're going to tell you about how you can use it to improve your design and everything. And we give you the link to go use it. So you'll see a lot of that pop up in the design guide where there's a tool or something being provided elsewhere, and we're going to help you understand how to leverage that best or how it can actually make a good experience for you or help you make a good experience. The other one I wanted to look at, so this gets its own tab now because this is going to be quite full by the end of the year. Right now we have 2 biggies in it, which is in-skill purchasing and handling payments under the Make Money tab. These are relatively new. In-skill purchasing was rewritten recently with all of the kind of updated knowledge and best practices on monetizing your skill digitally. Payments are for like hard goods that you might offer or services that you might offer that don't fall under in-skill purchasing. And there has been a lot of change to payments. Amazon Pay has been deprecated. So this is really important to know if you plan on selling something in your skill. Later in the year, we will also have discussion on like shopping actions and other tools you can use to make money in your skill. So that's a big one too that I wanted to show you. And we also have at the top of every page now, you will find some key takeaways and links to other stuff down page. So you don't have to fish around for what you need, I hope. That's my hope. If you are still fishing around for things that you need, though, you can click on this little feedback widget and give us feedback about that page. You can also give us feedback on other stuff that you want to see. Because some of these pages have like 20 conversations embedded in them. We just have this little collapsible window. So if you just want to skim the article, that's fine. But if you want to actually listen to these conversations, you can play them here or you can read the transcript here.
That would be a great feedback topic too. If there's something that you're looking for conversationally that's not being represented through these features, let the team know. Looking through all of this, I mean, I remember what this design guide started as. And if any of our viewers remember it from its very early days, it used to just be one very long, continuous scrolling page. This is so remarkably better. I think that of most of the updates that I've seen this year, this is probably one of my personal favorites. Before we wrap up, is there any advice that you would give to skill developers as they're starting to work on their own conversational designs?
Oh, my number one piece of advice, and you can apply this in a number of ways, is to use your ears and rely on your ears. Go use some skills. Use a bunch of skills. Go in the skills store on Amazon.com and find random skills that aren't being served to you on your home cards and stuff like that. Seek out all kinds of skills. I make it a habit of probably every day to every other day, I will use a new skill that I haven't used before. I'll seek out a new skill, or I'll revisit a skill where it's been, maybe a couple of years. I'm like, oh, you're still here. How have you changed? And sometimes they have, and it's delightful. So I make it a habit of using skills. Use other conversation experiences. Use chatbots. And then when you are actually working on your skill and writing your dialogue, as you're writing it, before you get too committed or before you make an edit, go ahead and put it in the developer console and listen to it, or use like the Poly console in the Poly voice section of the developer portal and listen to it. And you will immediately start editing, and you will edit down to probably quite a good dialogue before you even go to the design guide for design advice. And you will probably find in the design guide some things that you already heard for yourself, of things that just sound weird with Alexa that we point out, or things that aren't that pleasant when you read a long list, or when you read a dynamic list, sometimes the names sound wonky. All kinds of stuff that you can discover for yourself without having to read about it. So I would encourage you to use the design guide, listen to those conversations, because there are some really funny, bad conversations in there to learn from. There's some really good ones. Use other skills, and then listen to your own skill before you even bother testing it or launching it. You'll make a lot of progress just doing an edit your own ear, because you are a conversation expert. Don't forget that. Alexa isn't the conversation expert. People are teaching her, so we are the experts. We know how we speak. We know what sounds good and sounds conversational. We know what sounds weird. So trust yourself and listen always.
That is amazing advice. And I know we've been talking a lot about when you're first getting started, but if you've already built skills, this is still super beneficial. Go back through, and I guarantee you'll be able to find something that you can improve in your own skill, because they're never really done.
Yeah, if you go through every single checklist, I don't want to promise, but I can almost promise that like you'll find some really meaningful way to like reduce friction or boost your reviews or something like that. If you go through every checklist, I'm pretty confident you'll find something.
And if you don't, let us know in the feedback tab.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Allison, for joining us. This has been a super delightful conversation. Hopefully you all found it just as informative as I did. Before we wrap up, I just want to point out the resources widget on the right of your screen. There is going to be a link there to the design guide, it's alexa.design/guide. And please don't forget to fill out the survey that's going to pop up when we end this, because we are always working to improve our tech talks and conversations like this, and super value your feedback. Thank you so much, Allison, and I will talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.